For the president and his son to be suggesting that Democrats are behind the assassination?
Well, I don't like suggesting any of those things, but the fact of the matter is, if Donald Trump's head was one tiny twist the other direction, he would be dead right now. And what would be happening in America right now? So, yeah, when your dad almost gets killed and when he gets shot again, look, I'm not suggesting the Democrats are doing it, but the rhetoric that Donald Trump is a threat to democracy was a Democrat talking point. And the other talking point now is that he wants to monitor women's pregnancies, that Trump said that if he doesn't win, there's going to be a bloodbath. So look, all of this stuff, the one thing I agree with is that the rhetoric should calm down, but it's part of the Democrat tactic to win this election is to paint Donald Trump as a threat to the very republic that we live in.
Well, now, of course, you see that Republicans are doing the same, using those same lines against Democrats. You've got Trump and Vance and Musk out there saying that now it's Democrats who are the threat to democracy. But I think overall, if you kind of take a step back from the perspective of voters, we have wars in the Middle East that are escalating. You do have economic indicators that at a macro level are moving in a more positive direction, but we all know that prices, when it comes to what you're actually paying day in and day out, still haven't come down. And then, of course, you see just what's happening, this devastation with the storms. And so there is that just sense of unease among a lot of voters. And I think the challenge for Harris is that she has to both paint herself as experienced enough to take on this job because she's sitting in the White House right now as vice president, while also making clear to voters that she's not going to just continue on with what the current administration is doing. It's a very tricky balance.
And Adam, boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, we got to talk about a heated, and I mean heated, ABC panel discussion featuring former GOP chair Reince Priebus and former DNC chair Donna Brazile, okay, who are going to go off on each other over Eric Trump blaming Democrat rhetorics for the attempts on his father's life, okay? And who can really blame Eric Trump for saying this? Because we know that the last assassination attempt on the former president was inspired by Democrat rhetoric. Now, how do we know that? Well, we know that because this individual straight up said that, he believes that Trump is a threat to democracy, right? He doesn't like the way that Trump would handle the war in Ukraine because Ukraine is fighting for democracy, okay? And these are all Democrat Party talking points, okay? I mean, this guy was a flat-out Democrat Party supporter, okay? And he was inspired by the rhetoric of outlets like ABC, MSNBC, CNN, and the Democrat Party when it comes to the attempt on the former president's life. Those are the facts, okay? Now, apparently it's not a bad thing to say things like this, to blame your political opponents when a politician is attacked and almost loses their life when it's a Democrat, right? Apparently it's totally fine, totally okay to blame Trump and to say that Trump is responsible when you had somebody like Paul Pelosi get attacked with a hammer by a guy who was not a Trump supporter, right? And we know that he wasn't a Trump supporter. The dude was woke as hell, okay? He was not a Trump supporter at all, but they blame Trump, right? Now, all of a sudden, Democrats want to cry foul. You can't do that. You can't blame the assassination attempts on us when the former president almost loses his life again, right? We've had 2 assassination attempts on the former president, plus assassination attempts on conservative Supreme Court justices, right? Clearly, there's an issue in this country when it comes to far left rhetoric, okay? But Republicans are supposed to be the ones to answer questions about whether or not Republicans are going too far or Eric Trump or the Trump family is going too far when they're basically saying that, the Democrat rhetoric is responsible for what's happening to conservative Supreme Court justices, conservative politicians, and the former president of the United States.
But Mr. Speaker, you just said Democrats are. You said their rhetoric is inciting. We all just saw what both President Trump, former President Trump, and his son Eric said. Eric actually did specifically reference Democrats. He said they tried to kill him, and it's because the Democratic Party, they can't do anything right. Do you support those comments or not?
I don't know what Eric was saying because I only heard just a snippet there. I don't know the context.
You just saw it,
Eric
sir.
Is very level-headed and a very intelligent person. I saw your clip of it, George. I didn't see the full speech. We need to all look at these things in full context. What they're referring to, though, is the absolute open attacks that have been engaged by Democrats against President Trump since the day he came down that golden escalator in 2016, okay? The lawfare is unprecedented. They've attacked him in every single way. They try to malign his character every single day. And the people have had enough of it. That's why you have these massive turnouts at the rallies. People have had enough of this. We need everybody on all sides to turn the rhetoric down, and let's have a debate about the records of these candidates, not the rhetoric. Let's talk about the policies, not the personalities. That's what the American people demand and deserve. These are serious issues the country's facing. We need to be talking about the ideas and the answers and the solutions to get out of them, and not all this other stuff.
So you're actually repeating the charge. And I don't know what more context you need. Here's exactly what Eric Trump said. They tried to smear us. They came after us. They impeached him twice. And then, guys, they tried to kill him. They tried to kill him. And it's because the Democratic Party, they can't do anything right. What more context do you need? Do you support that statement or not?
George, I'm not going to parse the language of what people say at rallies. I could give you pages and pages of crazy comments by the leading Democrats in this country. That's not what this is about. We have to talk about the greatest collection of challenges that this country's facing probably since World War II.
And the answer to that question should have been, well, George, the last assassination attempt against the president, the Trump deranged lunatic claimed that democracy is on the ballot. And that the world is counting on us, right, when it comes to protecting democracy. This is what the guy said on social media, right? I mean, the dude clearly was radicalized by anti-Trump rhetoric from the Democrat Party. It is clear as day, okay? Now, we know for certain, we know for a fact that had the evidence been so clear in an attempted assassination against a Democrat, that these people would certainly be blaming Trump and his rhetoric for the assassination attempt, right? They would be going on and on and on and on and on about it. I mean, these are the same people that blame Trump for inciting a riot at the Capitol when the dude clearly stated that he wanted peace multiple times, okay? He was all about being peaceful. Oh, no, well, Trump's rhetoric incited it. But when it comes to an assassination attempt against the former president, in which we have the would-be assassin admitting that, yeah, I did this because I'm Trump deranged, right? Yeah, I did this because I think that Trump was a threat. He wrote it on social media. He's a Democrat Party, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris supporter. Again, there's plenty of evidence behind it. I mean, he admitted that, yeah, he was trying to take out the president. Oh, well, you can't blame Democrats. You can't blame their rhetoric for this. Again, it's insane. It's nonsense. Especially, again, considering how these people have no problems blaming Trump when it comes to things like Paul Pelosi and that lunatic breaking into Nancy Pelosi's house and hammering him, right? Trying to kill him. Even though that dude was not a Trump supporter at all. He clearly was a woke leftist extremist. And they try to say, well, he's a Trump supporter, right? They try to blame Trump for that. But now all of a sudden, oh, it's out of bounds to blame Democrats for assassination attempts that are clearly incited by Democrat Party rhetoric, right? So with that being said, that brings us to Donna Brazile, who's going to get upset with what Eric Trump said at the rally in regards to blaming the Democrats and their rhetoric for the attempts on former President Trump's life. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Look, I got to say something to you. I come out of the civil rights movement. Nonviolence was our touchstone. We made change by going out there protesting because we wanted to change our country to make sure that everybody was included. Democrats, and I've been a Democrat since I was 18 years old, although I voted once or twice for a Republican or two. There's no, and I mean this, there's no place for violent rhetoric. And when you threaten election workers, when you threaten to execute your quote-unquote former Joint Chief of Staff, Mr. Milley, when you mock Nancy Pelosi's husband being beaten by a hammer, I don't want to be lectured by Eric Trump. Who in the hell is Eric Trump saying Democrats? No, there's no place for violence of any kind. And this is something that needs to be said. I was there with you, brother, Mr. Priebus. I was there with you the day that Mr. Trump had that attempted assassination. The Biden campaign put down all of their ads just like they did during COVID. And they said, we are going to stop this. We need both political parties, both leaders. Do not go out there and blame Haitians. Do not go out there and blame immigrants and migrants. That is the rhetoric we hear every day. And if you cannot You cannot say that
right.
Joe Biden
We
won
don't
this
have that
election.
much time.
Joe
It's
Biden
not a
won the
monologue.
election. Then you should not.
The show is not a
you are
monologue,
not,
Donna.
No, but it is
the fact
not.
of the matter
it's not
is
the lies.
people have
it's the
different
floodgate of
opinions,
lies.
okay? And the fact of the matter is
Lies.
this is a former president and a son that, number one, came extremely close to losing his life and losing his father. Okay? He's been called a threat to democracy from the very beginning. They got rid of a sitting president to fulfill their message that he's a threat to democracy. And in order to save this country, they had a sitting president step down, put in a vice president in the summer. This is how they feel about it, and this is how everyone on the Democratic Party feels about it. So don't sit here and act like holier than thou. That
I'm not holy, baby.
That
I'm telling
somehow
you the truth.
you have a
The
corner
floodgate of lies.
on this
The
message
floodgate of
because
lies.
you don't.
And you don't.
And that's why you're not winning.
Ms.
That's why
Ruby.
Harris is behind, and that's why she's going
not
to lose.
behind.
People aren't buying the
not
rhetoric.
Very simple.
She's not behind votes.
People are not buying the rhetoric.
We're not buying the lies.
Why can't you simply say that blaming Democrats for the association?
I would not blame Democrats.
Just say it's wrong.
I just said it, okay?
Well, the same reason why Democrats can't say that blaming Trump is wrong for the attack on Paul Pelosi, even though Trump had nothing to do with it. See, here's the difference. Here's the difference, right? Here's what really pisses me off about these people, okay? On the left, we've had riot after riot after riot after riot inspired by far left Democrat Party rhetoric, right? But they want to try to create some false equivalency as if the right is also doing the same thing. And they're trying to blame the right for violence in this country when we're not seeing the political violence from the right that we're seeing from the left, right? It's one thing if we were seeing riot after riot after riot from right-wing extremists, but we're not saying that. That's not what we're saying. Okay, we're not saying assassination attempt after assassination attempt after assassination attempt coming from right-wing extremists. We're not saying that, okay? And thank God we're not, okay? That's not something I want to see. So there is no equivalency here. And it pisses me off that people like George Stephanopoulos, he turns to Reince Priebus, who's 100% right. Oh, well, why can't you just have Republicans come out here and say it's wrong for Trump to say that? Well, Trump almost lost his life. And because we know for a fact that the dude was inspired by Democrat Party rhetoric. It's not speculation. We know this. We know this. He said it on his social media. He admitted it. So Democrats, they're upset. They want you to say that it's wrong to acknowledge the truth. It's wrong to acknowledge reality. This is essentially what they're asking for. And that's what's so frustrating about this. Democrats have no problems blaming Trump when they have no proof that Trump's rhetoric was behind any of the things that they're blaming him for. They have no problems blaming him for it. But when we have proof and evidence that Democrat Party rhetoric was behind a failed assassination attempt against Trump, they want to get mad at Trump for blaming Democrats for something that we have proof and evidence that their rhetoric inspired. Clear as day, right? But they want to shut you up and say, nah, you can't say that. You can't say that. When again, these people have been blaming Trump for everything that has nothing to do with him since 2016. They've been blaming the guy. It makes me sick. It makes me sick to my stomach. And what makes me even more sick, again, is these so-called journalists that clearly are trying to cape for the Democrat Party and defend the Democrat Party and their violent rhetoric. And then you wonder why we continue to see so much political violence from the left in this country, because they're never held accountable. Democrats are never held accountable. That's why you continue to see it. It's always excused and swept under the rug. But Trump, right? That's what they do every single time. And this is why you keep seeing it. This is why you keep seeing it. All of these people that continue to defend this nonsense are responsible, right? Because they're not standing up against it, right? They're not standing up against the extremists in the Democrat Party. These people are extreme as hell, especially when it comes to Trump. The Democrats have actively decided that, hey, we don't have to abide by any rules. We don't have to stand on any real principles, okay? We don't have to do any of these things because Trump is that big of a threat. This is what they say out loud, right? They've even said on MSNBC, we don't have to do journalism because Trump bad, right? We shouldn't be held to any standards because Trump is that bad. This is what they've decided in their party. This is what they're saying openly out loud, and you're seeing the consequences of it. But they want Trump to stand up and say, oh, no, we shouldn't say that Democrats and their rhetoric is out of control, even though it is, right? And we've seen the real world results. This is not a both sides issue. It's not. It is primarily a Democrat Party issue. It is primarily a left-wing issue. And they know this. This is why they get so upset. This is why they try to shut down people like Reince Priebus and the Trumps who are telling the truth about this. Because they know that what they're saying is correct.
It's also wrong to paint the president of the United States, President Trump, as the threat to democracy that's going to end the United States of America. What does that do to people's heads when you do that? What does that do to hundreds of millions of people in America?
What does that do
has
to
an
legal
effect,
immigrants?
guys.
What
Wake
does it
up.
do to legal immigrants when you know
It
you're
has
lying?
an
What does it
effect.
do to kids
We're talking
who are
about
trying to go to
the
school?
president of the United States practically getting killed.
And
okay?
we all condemn that.
You're hitting 20 different topics.
The Democrats condemn that. But the lies, the floodgate of lies must
What lies?
stop.
Like that President Trump's going to monitor women's pregnancies?
Oh, well.
Oh, that's Project 2025. Has nothing to do with President Trump. But you know what? It's a good talking point for the Democrats, so they keep saying it. They lie all the time.
Oh, wow.
Facts. They do. They lie all the time. That's all they do is lie. Their party is built off lies. And they try to lecture Republicans about lying. Well, they lie about everything. And again, the lies have resulted in political violence. When you talk about this issue of abortion, these people lie their asses off. Women are bleeding out in parking lots. And that's not happening. That's not happening at all. What was the result of that? You had an attempted assassination on a Supreme Court justice. Again, they don't talk about that too much, right? They don't talk about that too much. But that happened. After Roe v. Wade was overturned, we had an attempted assassination on a Supreme Court justice. Supreme Court justices were being stalked and harassed in public places at their own homes by leftists inspired by Democrats. But yet, Donna Brazile will say, well, what about the illegals? What about the illegals? What are you talking about? This woman is more concerned about the damn illegals than she's concerned about the people that have lost their lives as a result of the illegal immigration issues in this country. They're more concerned about the illegals. And again, what is she referring to? What is she referring? Trump's lies about Springfield. Well, the so-called bomb threats turned out to be fake. That those threats were not inspired by anything that J.D. Vance and Trump said. Those threats were fake. They came from overseas, but yet these people are still peddling that lie. They're still peddling the lie. And see, that's the crazy thing. They don't realize how much they lie about everything and how much that inspires people. Well, you're putting the illegals in danger, right? Saying that, hey, we want the border to be closed, that, we should be having mass deportations, that there are issues with this, right? Telling the truth about what's going on in this country. Oh, well, that's dangerous. But yet they don't have any real examples to point to of the so-called danger that this is supposed to cause. But I got a whole bunch of examples of the dangers, the violence that has happened as a result of the Democrats and their rhetoric. Again, this is not a both sides issue. It's just not. And I'm never going to accept that framing. That's the framing that the Democrats want to excuse themselves. But a vast majority of the political violence that we're seeing is coming from the left. And until they address it, until they acknowledge it, until they hold themselves accountable, it seems to be that it's only getting worse. It's only getting worse. Because they rather deflect and point the finger at Trump and to say, well, he's a threat to democracy. He's so bad. He's so evil. And then guess what? You radicalize more and more and more people in this country. And then, it's almost like a repeating cycle. That's all it is. It's a repeating cycle. So, the fact these people get so upset by Republicans, Trump, basically calling out the Democrats on their rhetoric, it really shows you how guilty they feel. Like internally, they feel very guilty about it. And this is why they get so upset, because it's hitting them where it hurts. It's hitting them where it hurts. So, hey, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.